This right here, this is a snakeskin jacket, and for me, it's a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom. Welcome to It's Always Sunny in, I guess, Hollywood. And where does this take place?
Texas, I think.
Texas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it starts in Cape Fear and then it moves to Texas.
It's Always Sunny in Texas. Today we're going to be talking
Yeehaw.
about Wild at Heart, the David Lynch and Nicolas Cage picture. So, Wild at Heart was a 1990 black comedy romantic crime film directed and written by David Lynch, starring Nicolas Cage, Laura Dern, Willem Dafoe. Also has appearances from a couple other, like, I guess, significant actors like Harry Dean Stanton, Isabella Rossellini, a couple Twin Peaks cast members like Sherilyn Fenn. This movie is somewhat of a sort of pseudo remake of The Wizard of Oz. It also has many allusions to the life of Elvis Presley.
I
Uh,
noticed
early,
the Wizard of Oz parallels. I didn't notice the Elvis Presley ones though. I think they
Nicolas
like
Cage
mention his
very
name.
much. Nicolas Cage was very much doing like this Elvis impression,
Right.
yeah,
and he sings "Love Me Tender."
yeah, all the songs. I
I felt
don't
like Wizard
know.
of Oz was just more apparent,
The
like more
Wizard of Oz was
prominent.
more like connected to the plot when I guess the other one was just like performance. I don't know. Early test screenings were pretty poor. Apparently, people kind of walked out, and it initially got like a mixed critical reception. However, despite that, it won the Palme d'Or, one of the most prestigious awards in film. It's kind of crazy how like it had mixed audience reception, mixed critic reception, and it won Best Picture. Like that's basically what happened. It was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. It's considered at the time this is considered one of the most controversial decisions by the French Academy. But since then it's been widely reevaluated and considered one of Lynch's best. Well, I guess I kind of already gave a hint about the Wizard of Oz, but basically we follow two characters. Sailor, played by Nicolas Cage. He's this kind of a romantic Southern outlaw, and then we also follow Laura Dern, who plays Lula, and that's basically like his girlfriend, fiance, I guess wife by the end. And yeah, it's basically just kind of like a road trip on the run movie. Lula's mother hates Nicolas Cage, tries to get him sent to jail, tries to Lula and Sailor kind of go on the run. She sends people like after them. And yeah, it's a very kind of episodic story then.
Yeah, at first it was I think her fiance, and then afterwards, like she just straight up hires a hitman.
I'm trying to think of like the first scene in the movie. Like was that her fiance? Like the fellow with
First
like the
scene in the
knife?
movie is Nicolas Cage beating the crap out of a guy because he pulled a switchblade knife on him.
Yeah, and like the guy with the switchblade was like hired by the mom.
Hmm.
So like I'm wondering what was that just like a hitman or was that
I think that was just another hitman
yeah, another hitman. Okay.
because the
Um
person she was married to died in a fire.
anyway, it's kind of episodic. The first act in particular kind of like jumps around in the timeline a bit. But then eventually we run into I guess Sherilyn Fenn's character, the car accident lady. From then on, things kind of take a shift as they meet. They head to Big Tuna, Texas, and he contacts his old acquaintance. Let's just call him Peru, played by Willem Dafoe.
He does not play the friend in this one.
Yeah, there's actually a couple instances of rape in this film, and we kind of learn about like her like having being sexually abused as a child, and then also then it kind of comes back up in this scene with Peru. And then they basically do a robbery, but then Peru kind of goes crazy, and then it's kind of revealed that Peru was hired to kill Sailor, and it was given like things get kind of spiral very quickly out of here. He's given dummy ammunition, chase a store. There's like an insane squib at one point, um, like head fucking like it's kind of nuts. But yeah, Sailor is by the end he's arrested, sent to 6 years in prison. Lula has her child, and upon release, they reunite. But Sailor kind of feels that he's kind of like he's a bad influence, so he decides to leave him. But then after getting assaulted by a bunch of gang members, he sees a vision of Glinda the Good Witch, played here by Laura Palmer's actor. This is like probably the only explicit reference to the Wizard of Oz, because it's just straight up Glinda from the movie. He decides to turn back up. It's a very kind of light and goofy movie, but also like oddly very dark, which
The
I guess,
themes they
kinda,
tackle are very dark. It's just how they kind of handle them in between with the Wizard of Oz parallels.
kind of like the kind of happy-go-lucky like elements to the characters, because like Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage, they're so kind of like a lot of the characters are incredibly goofy, and like even like the sinister ones are goofy. But yeah, I don't know. Patrick, what did you think of it?
I'll say this definitely feels like a movie from the same guy that made Blue Velvet.
Yeah, no,
That
yeah.
is unmistakable.
This didn't catch me off guard as much as Blue Velvet, but
no, because literally within the first 5 minutes, there's a violent beating and also a sex scene. So I'm like, unlike with Blue Velvet, where like it's pretty normal for the first like 15 minutes, and then it gets really weird. But from here, it's kind of weird from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think
I
you're
kind
also
of
more
really
desensitized by David Lynch by this point.
Maybe,
kind of
I
really
don't
liked
know.
like the first act, because it had like such like a weird kind of like dreamy rhythm to it. It kind of like
How it goes back
kind
and
of,
forward through time.
yeah, kind of goes back and forth, and even like a lot of like fade-ins with like the sex scene had like a lot of like it felt like kind of really hazy, and I was like, it's kind of like interesting like thing. This movie is like so fucking horny, like Jesus Christ. A lot of sex, and like it's all like purposeful, but still, it was just like, damn, I didn't expect like that much. I was like, that's crazy.
I was expecting the violence and the sex. I was not expecting the weird fantasy Wizard of Oz stuff.
Oh, that's kind of like the best part. It's a very odd combination, but um, it was my overall thought is like it's got like the odd rhythm like you kind of expect if you've like seen David Lynch's All Things, but this one like specifically has a very like goofy streak to it that's kind of different from how he handles like the comedy and his other stuff. And as a result, like I kind of feel like it's his like most fun or like carefree, I guess is the right term. Still like really dark, but like this is kind of like the one that like I just like enjoyed the most on like the base level.
I'm curious what you think, Lugia, because of the three of us, I am the least familiar with Lynch. You've seen Blue Velvet twice now, so I'm curious.
Yeah,
What do you think?
you're also a cage head.
uh,
That too.
so I did enjoy this. I did like seeing Nicolas Cage and Willem Dafoe interact on screen because they're some of my favorite actors. I do have some problems with how the villains, quote unquote, are handled. Just to jump ahead here, if I were to recommend a movie similar to this, it would be Spider-Man 3 because this movie tries to juggle around its villains. So we have Lula's mom who doesn't want a sailor to be with her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So she hires what was his name? Johnny?
Yeah.
And it's implied that they're in a relationship after her husband died in that fire. But then when that doesn't really work out and there's no progress being made on that, she hires a hitman. I think his name was Santos. And he's clearly interested in Lula's mom. So he's not only a villain because he's hired to kill Nick Cage, he's also a villain because like he has an ulterior motive to ruin somebody. And he kills Johnny in the movie just so that he has more of a chance to be with Lula, or more forcibly, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then an hour and 18 minutes he is completely forgotten about in favor of Bobby Peru, played by Willem Dafoe. And he is my favorite and least favorite thing in the whole movie. And it's so weird to say that because I love Willem Dafoe. I love the fact that he's playing this unhinged sex maniac. But he distracts from that whole other plot point, and we just have about half an hour of footage of him and Nick Cage interacting and them robbing a bank until he gets shot 6 times and then gets his head blown off by his shotgun. That was great, but it felt like there wasn't really a balance between these villains. He's just there, and then he's gone. And now we have Santos again.
That's fair. I guess I'm just kind of used to like the kind of dreamlike David Lynch movies. They're all of them are incredibly like dreamer-like and a very like loose logic, and they kind of just go with the flow kind of thing. And I've seen like a lot of them, so I think I'm just like used to that kind of rhythm with him. So I just kind of like
Wasn't there also one more villain? What was his name? Mr. Reindeer?
I don't even remember.
He was in like one scene, and
Oh, the guy who
the
was
guy.
on the phone taking a shit.
Yeah, him.
I completely forgot about him.
Oh, add him. Add him to the list.
All right, make that 4. Damn, Spider-Man 3 is beat now.
And the way I saw it though is like this was like an episodic kind of film, like the way it being a road trip movie and stuff. So the fact that like it kind of just like forgets about characters didn't bother me because I was thinking like I don't know, like Finding Nemo has like 4 villains, but like it's all like kind of in a succession. So it's like I feel like every villain plot kind of gets like solved because after Santos kills Johnny, Marietta, her mom, kind of goes into a guilt-fueled like psychosis. So like the way I see it, it was almost like an ironic sort of thing there, where like she was kind of her own undoing. Obviously she's meant to be like the Wicked Witch. The way I saw it, it was kind of like she melted, and then but
But the
after the
thing is
Wicked
that
Witch,
the fact that Santos was hired to kill a sailor, that goes nowhere. Well, it's
well, the way
almost
I
like he doesn't even care. He just wants to be with Lula's mom.
obviously, and like the way I see it, like he just killed Johnny to get with Lula's mom. Then Lula's mom went crazy, so he's like, well, shit. Like like what reason does he have to kill? Like she's nuts now. He gets nothing out of it, so that's the way like I kind of read it. But like yeah, I find it really really funny how all the Wizard of Oz like illusions are so like subtle until the end where they just have Glinda the Good Witch. And I was like, oh, I was like, because I was like
Like they're
a
not
third of the
even
way.
being subtle anymore.
Not
No,
just
like a
straight
third
up
of the way
Glinda.
through, I kind of caught that it was
Bubble and all.
it's like it's kind of funny. Like it was like, oh, that's the Wicked Witch. Oh, Sherilyn Fenn, she's the porcelain doll from like the books.
And
Um,
the red shoes, the ruby
The
slippers.
Yellow
yeah,
Brick Road.
and jacket. Yeah, it was like it was all like very like kind of cool, kind of subtle. And then at the end is like that. I was like, oh, like it's not a complaint because it was just kind of like she straight up just had like the no place like home moment just like explicitly told at the end. It was like, oh, okay, well, like
I mean, you're bound to
I,
notice the
I,
Wizard of
I guess
Oz parallels, like, at some point. You just pick up on them. Emerald City, the Yellow Brick Road, I think they mentioned Toto straight up from the Wizard of
They
Oz.
do.
Yeah.
They do.
So it's not like it comes out of nowhere, but
oh yeah, no, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's just kind of funny like how explicit they get at that point. And I like that actually. But yeah, let's see. Performance wise, obviously everyone kind of chooses scenery. They're all kind of over the top and fun. I think Paige and Laura Dern, like they got like such an odd kind of chemistry. Like it really works, but like they're so like weird characters, but they're kind of like weird characters that mesh together well. Like Nicolas Cage just talking about like some other like chick he fucked before, and she's like, "Oh damn, sailor, she missed out." It was like that's kind of hilarious. Like I don't know. Yeah, I guess like we talked about like Defoe's character, like Isabel Rossellini. What'd you guys like think of all the characters? Yeah, I just said I thought they were all kind of fun,
obviously,
Performance
even though
wise,
they're all like
I thought they
really
were all
unique
great
and weird.
performance wise.
Yeah.
obviously Willem
Oh,
Dafoe was a big highlight.
yeah.
I mean, I do
A
have my
lot of
problems with his character, but I think in terms of his acting, he sold it.
a lot of like really bizarre dialogue, but it was all kind of like it was all very purposeful. Like it like
The makeup
everything else
too
felt
on his
so
teeth.
odd like
God.
at the yeah.
Eh.
Wouldn't that like head explode like squib happen at the end? I was like, God damn, like
I
Jesus.
was
Or
not
not
expecting. I
yeah,
laughed
yeah.
my
Or was
ass
I?
off when I saw that.
That was like a really like good effect. It was like
That was like both an unexpected death and like a pretty gruesome death at the same time.
they got the Love Me song at the start and then Love Me Tender. So it's
I like how they actually play that during the credits.
yeah.
That's a sweet moment.
I also like that is a callback because remember earlier in the film Sailor said that he'd only sing "Love Me Tender" to his wife.
Yeah.
So this is like basically like a marriage proposal. It was like
Foreshadowing.
oh, so here's a really fun fact that I think you'd be interesting. So you know how I said critics were very mixed on this.
Yeah.
If you look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's kind of funny. So it's got like a 66% Rotten Tomatoes, which makes sense. The audience score is like 89. And then it was like audiences like this more. Like it's like a similar case to like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Where it's like this really surreal kind of road trip, and I guess like audiences they're just able to like just like kind of accept the weirdness, and they just like you know enjoyed it. And like critics, they're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Like I don't know. I think that's kind of funny how just like you'd think that like David Lynch would be something critics would eat up and like audiences wouldn't, but like the exact opposite happened here.
The turns have tabled.
I do think this film is kind of comparable to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas because of its like kind of similar surreal energy. I guess Fear and Loathing is a bit more straightforward with its oddness, so I guess it'd be easier for an audience to grasp, but still interesting kind of parallel with him going to jail at the start and then springing out and going on this sort of romantic trip with Lula, and then at the end he gets arrested, and then when he springs out, he they get married, Oh yeah, like Sailor broke his like parole too with cinematography. I thought this film was shot like amazingly.
Had a bit of like a yellow tint to it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Breaking Bad whenever they're in Mexico. It's not as apparent here. Like I feel like they're a little lighter on it, but I still noticed it.
I think it was like meant to sort of give off like the kind of Texas heat. I kind of like some like the scene.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were going for.
Yeah, and I thought it was effective, but like I kind of like some of the a lot of the shots indoors are like pretty crazy. You obviously got that that kind of club scene where like it was like that dude was like hitting on him, and it was all kind of cool blues, kind of going from reds. I posted like some screenshots, like
Did they have strobe light effects in the 90s?
Yeah, they probably did.
Actually, when is this supposed to take place?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of Lynch movies kind of like a sort of loose sense of time. Twin Peaks kind of I think it's like contemporary, but still got like a very 50s kind of vibe to it, and like the characters also have like 80s hair and like whatnot. So it's like I feel like time has always kind of been like a relative thing with Lynch.
Okay.
Pretty loose. In the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter.
So Lynch has said that the film's theme is finding love in hell. It's the compilation of ideas that come along, sort of the dark ones, the lighter ones, the humorous ones, all kind of working together, and you try to be as can to those ideas and try to get them on film. So and the film has been compared to Lynch's previous film Blue Velvet because they both explore kind of the dark sides of America, and we've all seen Blue Velvet. Yeah, I'd say that's accurate because like I've seen like a bunch of like Lynch's films, and like this Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, and from what I understand, Inland Empire, they'll kind of like explore like these similar ideas of kind of the dark underbelly of America. Inland Empire specifically like explores like Hollywood and whatnot. Apparently, this movie and Reservoir Dogs, which both came out like around the similar times, they were both got a lot of press because of how violent they were, because it was kind of an unknown level of violence.
Patrick, do you have anything else?
I'll say this is another one of those movies to add to the list of I'll come back to it at some point.
I feel like of those like films, it was either like more like enjoyable like from the first run than like
It felt it I will say this, it did feel a bit more accessible than Blue Velvet because again, the weirdness is apparent from the beginning.
Yeah.
I'd say this is more fulfilling than something like No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, even though that's like my favorite movie,
I know,
yeah.
I know. I'm just saying. It was the first time, all right? I liked it up until the end. Here though,
No, that's like not an uncommon opinion. Is just like
I know.
Here's just like my take on a lot of films. The thing is like the Coens aren't like incompetent. So anytime like they them breaking script from No Country for Old Men, that wasn't like me thinking I was like, oh, what the hell is this? That was me thinking I was like, okay, this is like a very like deliberate choice. And then I wondered, why did they make that choice? That's what I think with like pretty much every like film sometimes, or like and like the more I kind of ruminated on that, the more I kind of ended up liking the last act of No Country for Old Men. But I definitely get like why like on the first watch that'd be kind of off-putting. But yeah, I guess overall we all give it like a recommendation.
Yeah, it's like a 7.5.
Probably my favorite Lynch film after Mulholland Drive. Like honestly, like my second favorite. But yeah.
I think I like Blue Velvet more than this, but that's also because I saw it twice. Yeah. And I just really like showing people some of the weirder scenes just to get a reaction out of them.
And I don't know what my Lynch ranking is because I've only seen both of these films once.
Me on the rank. I was just like,
There might be a
thumbs up,
couple
thumbs
scenes I
down,
could
like,
probably
do
do
you
this to
recommend it?
people, but like Blue Velvet has some of the more iconic ones.
I was just like wondering, thumbs up, thumbs down. Like, do you recommend it? Do you like? Did you end up liking it?
Yeah, I liked it.
So next week,
So it's
recommendation.
yeah, we got an Easter classic right here with Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
It's Easter today. We didn't acknowledge that.
Technically, Nick Cage found Jesus in some way near the end with
Yeah.
the witch.
Anyway, yeah, Lugia, it's your turn.
Okay, so I've been thinking it over, and well, this is a movie I haven't really seen before. I know Red's seen it, and we've talked about it in brief passing, like in the early days of the podcast. But was ready to talk about Christopher Walken.
That could mean literally anything. He's been in like over 100 movies.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
And he was in Catch Me If You Can, remember?
I do remember that, yeah. But here,
When I think of Christopher Walken, I think of King of New York, but I've never mentioned that one on the podcast.
no. But for next week, we're going to be taking a look at Seven Psychopaths.
Ah, Martin McDonough. Interesting.
Don't think we've talked about him yet.
Yeah. I've obviously, like, you know, when Banshees of Inisherin came out, I talked about that, but that was it. Interesting.
Psychopath. Oh, yes, I have heard of this movie. I remember seeing ads for this.
I think that's a really interesting choice because I've always felt like it was kind of the odd one out in his filmography. But yeah, interesting.
Well, you know us. We always pick the weird ones.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's most like probably accessible one, but it's also like it's got a much snappier tone than like some of his other films. But you know, we'll talk about that later. You know. Okay, so this whole world's wild at heart and weird on top. I don't know. Yeah, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. And I don't know. Play Love Me Tender as we end out. That's all I got. End of episode.